Across centuries, the verses of women bhakti poets have echoed through temples, streets, and the hearts of millions. From Akka Mahadevi's ascetic surrender to Mirabai's unwavering defiance, from Sule Sankava's fearless faith to Janabai's poetry of self-worth. In an era of rigid hierarchies, these women dared to sing of love, liberation, and equality. On the occasion of International Women's Day, journey with Amit Basole into the heart of the Bhakti movement. These selections from the series Bhakti Republic bring you the voices of extraordinary women who were poets, saints, and revolutionaries.
Akka Mahadevi, whose life story, if you look it up, will remind you a lot of many other famous women bhakti poets, like Meera, for instance, in that it is a story of revolt against orthodoxy, against the norms that bind women, and so on. So Akka Mahadevi's poems talk about these gender norms and her revolt against these gender norms by connecting to the bigger Sharana concerns. And let's look at one example in which I think you will find many resonances with the poetry of Mirabai as well.
ಸಾವಿಲ್ಲದ ಕೇಡಿಲ್ಲದ ರೂಹಿಲ್ಲದ ಚಲುವಂಗೆ ನಾನೊಲಿದೆ.
To him, with no death, no decay, no form, to the beautiful one, I have given myself, O Mother. To him, with no place, no end, no space, no signs, to the beautiful one, I have given myself, O Mother. To him, with no clan, no country, to the peerless, handsome one, I have given myself, O Mother. For this reason, Channa Mallikarjuna, the handsome one, is the man for me. These wasting, dying men, take them away, throw them into the oven. And I'll give you two hard-hitting examples of this kind of attack from two women poets. One who is one of the earliest Dalit, so-called untouchable caste women poets in Kannada, Kallave, and one from Sule Sankava, who was a prostitute or a sex worker. So let's look at those poems and then we'll come back to seeing what we can make of them.
ಕುರಿ ಕೋಳಿ ಕರಿಮೀನು ತಿಂಬವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕುರಿ ಕೋಳಿ ಕರಿಮೀನು ತಿಂಬವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಕುಲಜ ಕುಲಜರೆಂದೆಂಬರು.
They say all those are high-born who eat sheep, fowl, and tiny fish. They say all those are low-born who eat the cow that reigns on Shiva, sacred milk sanctified 5 times.
ಅವರೆಂತು ಕೀಳು ಜಾತಿಯಾದರು.
What the Brahmins had eaten adorned the grass, and a dog licked it up and went away. What the cobblers had eaten adorned the grass. Now the Brahmins' ornament, in other words, bags, are made of cow's hide for ghee and for water.
ಶೋಭಿತವಾಗಿ ನಾಯಿ ನೆಕ್ಕಿ ಹೋಯಿತು.
Senseless Brahmins who drink ghee and water from such leather bags. thinking it's sacred, they can't escape utmost perdition. The master of Urulinga Peddi doesn't approve of such men. She's setting up a contrast, as you can see, between those who are highborn or so-called, they say, she says, right? So they're so-called highborn people who have these dietary preferences, and others who are so-called lowborn who have other dietary preferences. And then she goes on to show the arbitrariness of why certain preferences are mapped on to certain types of status. And she goes on to show that these lowborn people are eating the cow and are considered lowborn because they eat the cow. But then there's also the cow that gives the leather, and that leather forms the bags that carry the ghee that is sacred. So along the way somewhere something weird has happened, she's pointing out.
ಒತ್ತೆಯ ಹಿಡಿದು ಒತ್ತೆಯ ಹಿಡಿದು ಮತ್ತೊತ್ತೆಯ ಹಿಡಿಯೇ ಹಿಡಿದಡೆ ಬೆತ್ತಲೆ
In my harlot's trade, having taken one man's money, I daren't accept a second man's, sir. And if I do, they'll stand me naked and kill me, sir. And if I cohabit with the polluted, my hands, nose, ears, they will cut off with a red-hot knife, sir. Ah, never, no. Knowing you, I will not. My word on it, O Nirlajeshwara. I think I don't need to tell you how much anger, pathos, but also sarcasm comes out of this really powerful poem. Remember, this was written by somebody who was on the margins of society nearly 1,000 years ago. So it's a voice speaking to us over all of those centuries, and it's a very powerful voice. First, note her name for Shiva. Very different from what we have seen so far. She calls him Nirlajeshwara. Lajja, shame, Nirlajja, the shameless. The God of the shameless, the shameless God, or the God of the shameless, the Lord of the shameless ones. And you can see how that resonates with her occupation as well. The poem itself, here's my reading of it in brief. You can see if that makes sense to you. I read it as a very caustic, sarcastic take on society of the time and how they treat people like her. But she's using those really dramatic examples of punishment and so on to demonstrate her loyalty to Shiva. That's what the poem is about. As she ends it, she's giving him her word that she's not going to be disloyal to him. Why? Because in her trade, having taken one man's money, there's no question of accepting another one's, because these are the punishments that await if one is disloyal. So I found it really very difficult, I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a very interesting way of saying something that so many poets also say, that I'm yours, I'm loyal to you, but she's using these kinds of instances from her own life to make that point. Mirabai. She finds herself in Vrindavan, Krishna Bhumi. And here's the story. She wants to meet in Vrindavan a famous theologian, a resident theologian of Vrindavan, a man by the name of Jeev Goswami, who happens to be a disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Bengal. Jeev Goswami is very well known, a respected religious scholar in Vrindavan. Meera wants to meet him, talk to him, engage in discussions about Krishna Bhakti. Jeev Goswami declines to meet with her, and his reason is she is a woman and he is a man, and his religious vows, laws, customs, ethics don't permit him to meet with a woman. What is Meera's response? We can assume she's not pleased with it, that he's seeing her as a woman instead of a Krishna Bhakt with whom a debate can be carried out, a discussion can be carried out. How does she voice her displeasure with his reaction? That is the most interesting part. So she says, Uncle, बैठ जाइए. इस दुनिया में पुरुष तो एक ही है. हम सब जानते हैं वो कौन है. और हम सब उसकी गोपियां हैं, उसकी devotees हैं. We know there's only one man in the world. Who are you to give me this response? Tongue in cheek, insulting, I assume, to the man, but also making a profound theological point about all of us, the feminine spirit in us, which loves the divine principle, seeks union with it, pines in its separation, and so on.
It is a story with a theological significance. The story points to the centrality of a certain kind of devotion, which is Prem Bhakti, that Meera experiences in an intense fashion towards Krishna, and the story showcases the inability of a theologian who should have been able to experience that devotion but is unable to do so.
In the end, I want to come back to the figure of Janabai. Janabai, along with Bahinabai, are perhaps the two most well-known women in this tradition. Bahinabai was a Brahmin. Janabai her caste is not known. She is variously referred to as a Kunbi, sometimes a Mahar. Her occupation was a maid servant. She was a maid servant in Namdev's household, but she was also his disciple and so on. And her poems are these ovyas, the poems that women sing when they grind grain. And Janabai's songs are wildly popular to this day in Maharashtra. And it's through these songs that we know whatever little we know about her. Going back to the idea of labor and Vitthal, Vitthal routinely comes and helps out Jani in her work, in her day-to-day work. There's a popular representation of Janabai that shows her at the chakki, grinding grains, and Vitthal sits beside her and lends her a hand. She's also very informal with him. She calls him all kinds of names and said, "Why have you forgotten about me? You should come and look at what is happening, and I'm in trouble," and so on. The relationship is very, very informal. She curses him sometimes, and she loves him, and so on. In this poem that we're going to play from Janabai, she's talking about what she has gained by becoming part of this Varkari Pantha or Sampradaya, and how she has given up the traditional norms of shame and which keep women immobile inside the home, etc. So she starts by saying, "Doicha padar ala khandyavari." This padar, the pallu that I have, that women take over their head, and you're not supposed to be seen in public without that pallu covering your hair and your head, that has now slipped to my shoulder. Bharlya bazari zainami. I'm going to go into the bustling marketplace.
If you enjoyed these uplifting words of women poets who were way ahead of their time, you will love the show Bhakti Republic with Amit Basole. Tune into the series on Radio Azim Premji University's YouTube channel.
You're listening to
आप सुन रहे हैं
You're listening to सुनो था
നിങ്ങൾ കേൾക്കുന്നത്
ನೀವು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ
ರೇ ಕಥಾ ಸಂಚು
റേഡിയോ അസീം പ്രേംജി
ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. This non-commercial program is for educational purposes only.